My name is Gord Miller. I'm the Environmental Commissioner of Ontario. And I'm here today to introduce a report to the Legislative Assembly. My report, which is called Finding a Vision for Change, is actually a response to a report last week from the Government of Ontario called Climate Change Action Plan, in which the Ontario government reports on greenhouse gas emissions achieved in the last year. So my job is to critically evaluate that report and independently tell you about what I think and see how good the information is and if the government's doing their job. So within the context of that, I'm just going to point out a couple of graphics and explain them that capture some essential elements of the government's action plan and my critical evaluation of it. So we'll look at a couple of graphs. This figure, it's figure 6 in the Province of Ontario's report, the Climate Change Action Plan. And it has an axis from 1990 way out to 2020 and has indicated 2 target dates. We'll talk about this one. This is a 165 megaton emission target. It's supposed to be for 2014, but it is actually labeled in the year 2015, and out in 2020 a target of 149. The reductions in greenhouse gases, the targets are set relative to the base year of 1990. So what the government's trying to achieve is by 2014 they want to be 6% below the base year of our emissions in Ontario in 1990, which we know. And by 2020 we want to be 15% below. Now the green line is actual emissions. The broken green line is what we call business as usual. It's a theoretical number. It's trying to attempt to project what the emissions would have been in that year going forward into the future if in fact we had done nothing. And the sort of gold line is in fact what they're projecting to achieve. Now, I'm going to switch graphs here, and this one is a little stretched out and not real clear in some aspects, so we've recast that in our report. So let's look at that. So now in my report, Finding a Vision for Change, we have figure 1, which really shows the same information. A little bit of change along the axis, 1990 to 2020, same thing. The megatons of carbon dioxide equivalents issued in any given year. Here's where we were in 1990. These are actual figures up to, in histogram form, up to 2007, last year we have good data for, and basically the same data projected. On mine you can see a little bit more detail because it's squashed down and the axes are different changes. A couple of things, really important points to point out. Both on the government's version and mine just reproduction of that. Look at 2014, here's the target, here's what we're projected in our current plan to achieve. There's a 15 megaton per year shortfall. We're going to miss the target. Look at 2020. 2020, here's our target, here's what we're projecting for our actual emissions at the present time. A 35 megaton shortfall. This is a plan for failure. We're projecting now that we set these targets, these are necessary, but we're not going to meet them. And that is of great concern, because not only are we not going to meet them, we don't seem to have the mechanisms in place to try to achieve those, to change our plan of action, to add to it, to further reduce it. One other point that's worth pointing out is evident on my version of this graph. Look between 2014, our first target year, and 2020, our second target year. If you look carefully here, you'll see that the emissions actually rise. And of course, that's hugely problematic. I mean, we're not even achieving a gradual decline through time. If you like, we're in this period leading up to the first target. We are going to get some declines. Almost all of it is the coal plant closures, which are promised by 2014. But after that, we have nothing. We start increasing again. This is the challenge before the Ontario people. We have to achieve real hard mechanisms to actually reduce it, to get this line down toward this point and certainly down towards this. Because these numbers, although they are our targets, are not ambitious on international terms. The international scientists say we should be much lower than that by 2014 and 2020. So that's the challenge in this report. My whole report is available online at our website, www.eco.on.ca. And these graphs are reproduced there for your convenience.